A millionaire kicked her maid and her daughter out onto the street. Years later, she saw the maid's daughter on TV and was paralyzed by her words. The crisp morning air bit through the thin nightgown of a young girl as the heavy mansion door slammed shut behind her, casting her and her mother into the cold embrace of the unforgiving city streets. Victoria Collins, a woman of immense wealth and even more pride, had decided. The sound of the door's finality echoed in the early morning stillness, a brutal punctuation to the words she had spat moments before. "Get out, both of you. I won't have your kind here any longer," Victoria had declared, her eyes cold and unyielding. Her elegant hand, adorned with glittering rings, had pointed towards the door. Emma, the maid who had faithfully served Victoria for years, stood with her head bowed, her shoulders trembling. Beside her, clutching her hand, was her 10-year-old daughter, Emily. Emily's eyes were wide with confusion and fear. She had always known the mansion as her home, albeit where she and her mother lived in the servants' quarters. Now, the vast expanse of wealth and comfort seemed a cruel joke mocking their sudden homelessness. Emma held Emily close as they stepped onto the cobblestone street, trying to shield her from the biting wind. The city was waking up, the sky a pale gray as the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon. The grand houses lined the street were still shrouded in darkness, their occupants asleep in warm beds. "We'll be all right, Emily," Emma whispered, her voice shaky but determined. "We've got each other, and that's what matters." Emily looked up at her mother, drawing strength from her resolve. "I know, Mama, we'll find a way." Emma smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. She squeezed Emily's hand, and together, they began to walk, leaving the mansion and their old life behind. The day was a blur of uncertainty and fear. They wandered the streets, searching for a place to stay. Shelters were full, and sympathetic glances were all they received from strangers. By evening, they found themselves in a small, overcrowded shelter. The smell of unwashed bodies and stale food filled the air, but it was a refuge from the cold. That night, as they lay on a thin mattress, Emily clung to her mother. "Mama, why did Mrs. Harper do this to us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma sighed, stroking Emily's hair. "Sometimes, people with power forget the humanity of those who serve them. They see us as tools, not as people with feelings and lives of our own." Emily nodded, though she didn't fully understand. "I'll make her see. One day, I'll show her that we're not just tools." Emma's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and sadness. "You're strong, Emily, stronger than I could ever be. And one day, you'll do great things. But for now, we must focus on getting through each day." The days she turned into weeks and weeks into months. Emma found work where she could, cleaning houses and washing restaurant dishes. It was brutal and often demeaning, but she never complained. She saved every penny she could, determined to provide a better life for Emily. Emily, for her part, threw herself into her studies. Despite their dire circumstances, she excelled in school. Her teachers were impressed by her intelligence and determination. She spent long hours in the library, immersing herself in books, using them as an escape from the harsh reality of her life. One day, as she sat reading in a corner of the library, an older woman approached her. She was elegantly dressed, with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Hello, dear. May I sit here?" she asked. Emily nodded, moving her bag to make room. The woman sat down, looking at the book Emily was reading. "That's a wonderful choice. To Kill a Mockingbird is a powerful story about justice and compassion," the woman said. Emily smiled shyly. "I love it. It makes me think about how important it is to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard." The woman nodded thoughtfully. "You're very wise for your age. What's your name, dear?" "Emily. Emily Evans. It's a pleasure to meet you, Emily. My name is Mrs. Thompson. I'm one of the librarians here. You can find me here if you ever need help with your studies or just someone to talk to." Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That means a lot to me." As the months passed, Emily and Mrs. Thompson developed a close bond. Mrs. Thompson became a mentor to Emily, encouraging her to apply for scholarships and helping her with her studies. Emily's hard work paid off when she was awarded a full scholarship to a prestigious university. The night she received the acceptance letter, Emily ran home, clutching the letter to her chest. "Mama, look, I got in. I got a scholarship," she cried, tears streaming down her face. Emma hugged her tightly, her tears mingling with Emily's. "I'm so proud of you, Emily. I always knew you could do it." Emily's time at university was a whirlwind of new experiences and opportunities. She worked tirelessly, determined to make the most of her opportunities. Her passion for journalism blossomed, and she quickly gained a reputation for her insightful reporting and unwavering dedication to the truth. Graduation day was a bittersweet moment. Standing in the crowd, Emma watched with pride as Emily received her diploma. They had come so far from that cold morning on the streets, but Emily's journey was beginning. Emily secured a job at a top media company, and her career took off. She used her platform to advocate for social justice, sharing stories of those who had faced adversity and triumphed like her. Her name became known, and her voice was respected. One evening, as Emily was preparing for her next broadcast, a familiar name caught her eye in an email: Victoria Collins. She felt a chill run down her spine. The email was a request for an interview, sent anonymously, but Emily knew who it was from. "Emily, are you okay?" asked her producer, Carterl, noticing her pale face. Emily took a deep breath, steeling herself. "I'm fine, just a ghost from the past." As the broadcast began, Emily pushed thoughts of Victoria aside. She had a job to do, and her focus was on the story she was about to tell. But in the back of her mind, she knew that the time to confront her past was approaching, and when it did, she would be ready. The night ended with Emily sitting alone in the studio, the city lights twinkling outside the window. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, from the streets to the spotlight. She had come so far, but there was still one chapter left to write, which would be the most important. The first rays of dawn filtered through the dirty window of the small, cramped apartment Emma and Emily now called home. It wasn't much, just a single room with a tiny kitchen and a bed they shared, but it was a step up from the shelter. Emma stirred on the bed, careful not to wake Emily, who was curled beside her. The past year had been grueling. Emma worked tirelessly, taking on any job she could find. Cleaning offices late into the night. Washing dishes in the back of greasy diners and even scrubbing floors at a local hospital. The pay was meager, but it was enough to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. Emily had taken on her share of responsibilities. After school, she helped her mother with chores, cooked simple meals, and did her homework by the flickering light of a single lamp. Despite the challenges, she remained optimistic and driven, and her mindset was on a better future. One evening, as Emma sat at the small kitchen table, exhausted from a long workday, Emily placed a steaming cup of tea in front of her. "Here, Mama, this will help you relax," she said, her voice gentle. Emma looked at her daughter, her eyes filled with gratitude and pride. "Thank you, Emily. You're such a blessing to me." Emily sat down across from her, a severe expression on her young face. "Mama, I've been thinking. I want to help more. I know I'm young, but maybe I can find a small part-time job after school to take some of the burden off you." Emma reached across the table, taking Emily's hands in hers. "Sweetheart, your job is to focus on your studies. You're already helping so much. Don't worry about me. I can handle it." Emily nodded, though the worry lines on her forehead didn't fade. "I just want to make things easier for us. We've been through so much." "I know, Emily, but I promise you, things will get better. You have a bright future. I hope you can focus on that. We'll get through this together." The bond between mother and daughter grew stronger with each passing day. They faced their struggles head-on, supporting each other through every challenge. Emily's hard work in school paid off when she was awarded a scholarship to a prestigious high school. It was a beacon of hope in their otherwise complex lives. At her new school, Emily thrived. The resources and opportunities available to her starkly contrasted with what she had known before. She joined the debate team, participated in student government, and excelled in her classes. Her teachers were continually impressed by her intelligence and determination. One afternoon, Emily stayed after school to finish a project in the library. She was deeply engrossed in her work when she felt a presence beside her. Looking up, she saw Mrs. Thompson, the librarian who had been a guiding light in her earlier years. "Emily, what a pleasant surprise to see you here," Mrs. Thompson said, her smile warm and genuine. "Mrs. Thompson, I didn't know you worked here now," Emily replied, her face lighting up. "I took a position here a few months ago. It's wonderful to see you doing so well. How have you been?" Emily's smile faltered slightly. "We're managing. Things are still tough, but we're getting by." Mrs. Thompson's eyes softened with sympathy. "You're a remarkable young woman, Emily. I'm sure you'll continue to achieve great things. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask." "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Your support means a lot to me." As Emily continued to excel academically, her thoughts often returned to her mother. Emma's health had begun to deteriorate, the years of hard labor taking their toll. Emily knew she needed to find a way to help her mother beyond just succeeding in school. One evening, as they sat together in their small apartment, Emily delicately broached the subject. "Mama, I've been thinking. Maybe it's time for you to see a doctor. You've been coughing a lot lately and seem so tired." Emma shook her head, a weak smile on her lips. "Doctors cost money we don't have, Emily. I'll be fine. I need to rest." Emily's heart ached with worry. "But what if it's something serious? We can't afford for you to get worse." Emma sighed, her resolve weakening. "I know, sweetheart. I'll try to take it easier. Maybe we can find a free clinic somewhere." Determined to find a solution, Emily threw herself into her studies and a part-time job at the local grocery store, saving every penny she could. She researched clinics and medical assistance programs, seeking any way to help her mother. One day, while browsing the community board at the library, she saw a flyer for a free health clinic. Excited, she tore off a tab with the address and rushed home to show her mother. "Mama, look, there's a free clinic downtown. They might be able to help you," Emily said, her eyes shining with hope. Emma took the flyer, reading it carefully. "All right, Emily, I'll go. If it will ease your mind, I'll go." The visit to the clinic was a turning point. The doctors diagnosed Emma with a treatable condition, prescribed medication, and advised her to rest. Emily felt immense relief, and she redoubled her efforts to support her mother while continuing to excel in her studies. As the years passed, Emily's hard work and determination paid off. She graduated high school at the top of her class, earning a full scholarship to a prestigious university. The day she received her acceptance letter, she rushed home, her heart pounding excitedly. "Mama, I got in. I got the scholarship," she exclaimed, waving the letter. Emma's eyes filled with tears of joy. "I knew you could do it, Emily. I'm so proud of you." University life was a whirlwind for Emily. She immersed herself in her studies, majoring in journalism and quickly gaining a reputation for her insightful writing and fearless reporting. She joined a campus newspaper, working her way up to editor-in-chief by her junior year. Her dedication didn't go unnoticed. Upon graduation, she was offered a position at a top media company, a dream come true. Emily's career took off, and her voice became a powerful advocate for social justice and change. One evening, as she prepared for her latest broadcast, she received an email from an anonymous sender. The subject line caught her eye, a request for an interview. Opening it, she was stunned to see the name Victoria Collins. Emily sat back in her chair, her mind racing. The woman who had thrown her and her mother out onto the streets now wanted to meet. She felt mixed emotions: anger, curiosity, and a desire for closure. "Emily, is everything all right?" Carter, her producer, asked, noticing her distracted state. Emily nodded slowly. "Yes, just thinking about the past. I'll be fine." The broadcast went smoothly, with Emily's professionalism shining through as always. But as she wrapped up the day, her thoughts returned to the email. She knew confronting Victoria Collins would be a pivotal moment in her journey, a chance to face the past and move forward. That night, as the city lights twinkled outside her window, Emily made a decision. She would meet Victoria not out of a desire for revenge but to close a chapter of her life that had long remained open. She was ready to confront her past and, in doing so, fully embrace her future. The newsroom buzzed with the usual energy, a chaotic symphony of ringing phones, clacking keyboards, and hurried conversations. Emily thrived in this environment, her passion for journalism driving her forward. She had quickly made a name for herself as a dedicated and fearless reporter, her stories shedding light on social injustices and giving voice to the voiceless. Her latest project was particularly close to her heart, a series of reports on homelessness and the systemic issues that perpetuated it. Emily had spent weeks interviewing individuals living on the streets, and their stories were a stark reminder of her struggles. Her dedication to the project was unwavering, each story a piece of a larger narrative she was determined to tell. One evening, as she reviewed the footage in her office, her producer Carterl walked in. "Emily, you're not going to believe this," Carterl said, holding a letter. Emily glanced up, curiosity piqued. "What is it?" "It's an invitation to speak at the National Press Club. They want you to present your series on homelessness." Emily's eyes widened in surprise. "That's incredible. When is it?" "Next month. They're impressed with your work, Emily. This is a huge opportunity." Emily nodded, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. "Thank you, Carter. This means a lot." As the weeks passed, Emily threw herself into preparing for the presentation. She reviewed her notes, refined her footage, and rehearsed her speech countless times. The event day arrived quickly, and Emily stood backstage, her heart pounding with excitement and nerves. Taking a deep breath, she stepped onto the stage, the lights bright and the audience a sea of expectant faces. She began her presentation, her voice steady and confident. As she shared the stories of those she had met, their challenges, and the systemic changes needed to address the issue, Emily's thoughts drifted to her mother, who had always been her biggest supporter. She knew Emma was watching from home, cheering her on. The thought gave her strength, and she finished her presentation to a standing ovation. After the event, Emily mingled with other journalists and attendees, receiving congratulations and praise. It was a moment of validation for all her hard work and dedication. As she was about to leave, a familiar face approached her. "Emily, it's been a long time." Emily turned, her breath catching in her throat. Victoria Collins stood before her, looking older and frail than Emily remembered. The once imposing woman now seemed diminished, her eyes filled with an emotion Emily couldn't quite place. "Mrs. Harper," Emily said, keeping her voice steady. "What brings you here?" Victoria hesitated, then spoke softly. "I've been following your work. You've become quite the journalist. I wanted to speak with you if you're willing." Emily felt a surge of conflicting emotions. This woman had cast her and her mother onto the streets, yet here she was, seeking a conversation. "I have some time. There's a coffee shop nearby. We can talk there." They walked in silence, the tension between them palpable. At the coffee shop, they found a quiet corner. Victoria ordered tea while Emily chose coffee. They sat down, the silence stretching uncomfortably until Victoria finally spoke. "Emily, I owe you an apology. I've spent years thinking about what I did and the harm I caused. I was wrong, and I'm deeply sorry." Emily studied Victoria, searching for sincerity in her eyes. "Why now? Why, after all these years?" Victoria sighed, her hands trembling slightly as she held her cup. "Watching your presentation today and hearing those stories brought back memories I've tried to forget. I realized how my actions contributed to the suffering of others. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to acknowledge my mistakes." Emily felt a mix of anger and sadness. "You have no idea what we went through because of you. My mother and I struggled for years, but we survived, and we thrived despite everything." Victoria nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I can see that. You've accomplished so much. You're an incredible woman, Emily. I only wish I could take back what I did." Emily took a deep breath, her emotions swirling. "I can't change the past, Mrs. Harper, but I can choose how to move forward. What matters to me now is helping others and ensuring no one else has to endure what we did." Victoria reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "I know it's not enough, but I want to help. This is a donation to your cause to support your work. It's the least I can do." Emily accepted the envelope, her mind racing. It was a small gesture, but it felt significant. "Thank you. I'll make sure it goes to good use." As they parted ways, Emily felt a sense of closure. Confronting Victoria had been difficult, but it also reaffirmed her commitment to her work. She knew she couldn't change the past but could continue fighting for a better future. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The success of her presentation at the National Press Club led to more opportunities, interviews, speaking engagements, and even a book deal. Emily's voice grew louder, and her platform became more influential. One evening, as she sat in her office reflecting on the journey that had brought her here, she received a call from her mother. "Emily, I just saw your latest interview. You were amazing as always." "Thanks, Mama. I couldn't have done any of this without you. I'm so proud of you, Emily. You've come so far." Emily smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "We've come far, Mama. We did this together." As she hung up the phone, Emily looked over the city, the lights twinkling like stars. She knew challenges were still ahead but was ready to face them. With her mother's unwavering support and determination, she felt unstoppable. The journey from the streets to stardom had been long and arduous, but it had shaped her into the woman she is today. Emily knew her story was beginning and was excited to see the future. Emily sat at her desk, staring at the email from Victoria Collins. The message was brief and to the point. "I would like to meet with you to discuss something important. Please let me know if you are willing." She read it repeatedly, her mind swirling with memories and emotions. The idea of meeting Victoria again was daunting, but Emily knew that confronting her past was necessary for her peace of mind. She typed a response, her fingers trembling slightly as she hit send. "I am willing to meet. Please let me know a time and place." Victoria immediately replied, suggesting a quiet cafe on the city's outskirts. The meeting was set for the following Saturday. The days leading up to the meeting were a blur of anticipation and anxiety. Emily threw herself into her work, trying to stay busy and focused, but every time she had a moment, her thoughts drifted back to that cold morning when she and her mother had been thrown out onto the streets. She replayed the scene in her mind, remembering the fear and uncertainty they had faced. Saturday arrived quickly. Emily dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that made her feel strong and confident. As she exited her apartment, the summer sun shone brightly, but Emily felt a chill of apprehension. The cafe was a small, cozy place with a quiet atmosphere, perfect for a private conversation. She arrived a few minutes early and found a table near the back. Victoria arrived shortly after, looking older and more frail than the last time Emily had seen her. She walked with a slight limp, and her hair was streaked with gray. As she approached the table, Emily stood to greet her. "Thank you for meeting me, Emily," Victoria said, her voice soft and shaky. Emily nodded, gesturing for her to sit. "I appreciate you reaching out. I have to admit, I was surprised." Victoria took a seat, folding her hands in her lap. "I can understand that. I've had a lot of time to think about what happened and realized that I needed to make amends." Emily leaned forward, her expression serious. "Why now, Mrs. Harper? After all these years, why reach out to me?" Victoria sighed, her gaze dropping to the table. "Watching your presentation at the National Press Club brought back many memories. It made me confront the reality of what I did to you and your mother. I was so consumed with my own life and problems that I didn't see the impact of my actions on others. Seeing how you've risen above it all and dedicated your life to helping others made me realize how wrong I was." Emily listened, her emotions a tumultuous mix of anger and sympathy. "You have no idea what it was like for us. We struggled for years. My mother worked herself to the bone to provide for us. We lived in shelters, scraped by on the bare minimum, all because you decided we weren't worth keeping." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I can't change the past, but I want to make it right as much as possible. That's why I donated to your cause. I want to support the work you're doing to help others who are in the same position you once were." Emily took a deep breath, trying to steady her emotions. "It's a start, but money can't undo our pain and suffering." Victoria nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I know. I don't expect forgiveness. I want you to know that I regret my actions deeply and want to help in any way I can." Emily looked at her, seeing the genuine remorse in her eyes. It was a small comfort, but it was something. "Thank you. Your donation will make a difference, and maybe, in time, I can find it in myself to forgive you." But it's going to take time. Victoria nodded, her expression profoundly sad. I understand. Thank you for giving me this chance to apologize. It means more to me than you know. As they sat there, a silence fell over them, filled with the weight of unspoken words and the ghosts of the past. Emily felt a sense of closure beginning to form, a small but significant step toward healing. She knew that the journey was far from over, but this meeting was crucial. They finished their drinks, and Victoria stood to leave. I hope we can stay in touch, Emily. I want to be part of the solution, not just a reminder of the problem. Emily nodded, standing as well. We'll see. Thank you for reaching out. As Victoria walked away, Emily felt a strange sense of relief. Confronting the past had been difficult, but it had also been necessary. She watched Victoria leave, feeling a mix of sadness for the years lost, anger for the suffering endured, and a glimmer of hope for the future. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Emily continued her work with renewed vigor, driven by the knowledge that her efforts were making a real difference. Victoria's donation had been a significant boost, allowing her to expand her reach and help more people in need. One evening, her phone rang as she sat in her office reviewing footage for her next segment. It was her mother. Emily, how are you doing? Emily smiled, hearing the warmth in her mother's voice. I'm good, Mama. Busy but good. I'm so proud of you, Emily. You're doing amazing things. Thanks, Mama. I couldn't have done any of this without you. They chatted for a while, and as Emily hung up, she felt deeply grateful. Her mother had been a rock, her constant support through all the hardships. Everything she had achieved was as much her mother's victory as it was hers. That night, as Emily prepared for bed, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From the cold streets to the bright lights of the newsroom, every step had been a testament to her strength and resilience. She knew challenges were still ahead but was ready to face them one step at a time. As she drifted off to sleep, Emily felt a sense of peace. Confronting her past had been difficult, but it had also been empowering. She was ready to move forward, to continue her work, and to build a future where no one else had to endure the hardships she and her mother had faced. It was a long road, but Emily was more determined than ever to walk it. The studio lights were bright, casting a warm glow over the set. Emily sat at the anchor desk, her hands resting on the polished surface. She took a deep breath, steadying herself for the broadcast. Tonight was special. Tonight, she would share her own story. The producer's voice crackled through her earpiece. We're live in 5, 4, 3, 2. The red light on the camera blinked on, and Emily's professional smile appeared. Good evening. I'm Emily Evans. Tonight's segment is deeply personal for me. It's a story of resilience, hope, and the power of forgiveness. But more importantly, it's about the people who supported me and the journey that shaped me. This is my story. The screen behind her shifted to a montage of old photos and video clips. Images of Emily as a child, her mother Emma working tirelessly, and the streets they once called home. As the visuals played, Emily's voiceover narrated the scenes. My mother and I were evicted from our home when I was just 10 years old. We found ourselves on the streets with nothing but each other. Those early days were filled with fear and uncertainty but were also the foundation of a bond that would carry us through the darkest times. The montage shifted to show Emily and her mother in various stages of their journey, living in shelters, working long hours, and Emily's academic achievements. My mother, Emma Evans, is the strongest person I know. She sacrificed everything to give me a chance at a better life. She taught me the value of hard work, determination, and, most importantly, compassion. The camera cuts back to Emily in the studio. She took another deep breath, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Tonight, I want to introduce you to the woman who made all this possible. Mom, will you join me? The studio doors opened, and Emma walked in, her face lit up with pride and love. The audience applauded warmly as she took her place beside Emily. They shared a brief, emotional hug before facing the camera together. Mom, thank you for everything. Your strength and love have been my guiding light. I wouldn't be here without you, Emily said, her voice thick with emotion. Emma smiled, tears in her eyes. I'm so proud of you, Emily. You've become an incredible woman, and I'm honored to be your mother. The screen behind them displayed a new image, an older, frail Victoria Collins watching Emily's broadcast from her home. The camera zoomed in on her face, capturing her reaction as Emily continued. Recently, I was contacted by someone from my past. Victoria Collins, the woman who evicted us, reached out to apologize. It's taken me a long time to process my feelings, but I've come to understand the power of forgiveness. Emily turned to look directly into the camera, her expression resolute. We can't change the past, but we can choose how we respond to it. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting the pain or excusing the actions that caused it. It means freeing ourselves from the burden of anger and resentment. Victoria's face on the screen softened, her eyes glistening with tears. Emily's voice was strong and clear. I want to use this platform to highlight the importance of compassion and understanding. We all make mistakes, but it's never too late to seek forgiveness and make amends. The camera cut back to the live studio, where Emily and Emma sat side by side. Emily's producer, Carterl, gave her a thumbs up from behind the camera, signaling the end of the segment. The audience erupted in applause, and the emotion in the room was palpable. As the broadcast ended, Emily and Emma were surrounded by colleagues and friends who offered congratulations and support. The sense of closure was overwhelming, but also a new beginning. Later that night, Emily and Emma sat together in their living room, the glow of the city lights outside their window. They sipped tea, reflecting on the evening's events. Mom, do you think we did the right thing? Emily asked, her voice soft. Emma reached out, taking Emily's hand in hers. Yes, I do. You showed incredible courage tonight. Forgiveness is powerful, and you've given others the strength to face their struggles. Emily nodded, a sense of peace settling over her. I hope so. It feels like a weight has been lifted. Emily's phone buzzed with a message as they sat in comfortable silence. It was from Victoria Collins. She opened it, reading the simple yet heartfelt words. Thank you, Emily. You've given me a second chance to be a better person. I will always be grateful. Emily's eyes filled with tears as she showed the message to her mother. Emma smiled, her expression one of deep pride and love. You've made a difference, Emily. That's all we can ever hope to do. The journey from the streets to the spotlight had been long and complex, but it had shaped Emily into the woman she is today. She knew there would always be challenges ahead, but with her mother by her side and her unwavering dedication to justice and compassion, she felt ready to face whatever came next. As the night drew on, Emily and Emma talked about the future. The stories Emily still wanted to tell. The people she wanted to help. The impact she hoped to make. They laughed and reminisced, their bond more vital than ever. In the quiet of their home, surrounded by love and the promise of new beginnings, Emily felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She confronted her past, embraced her future, and found a way to use her story to inspire and uplift others. The city lights outside flickered like stars, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always a glimmer of hope. As Emily drifted off to sleep, she knew that her journey was far from over. It was only beginning. This story is truly moving and powerful. It demonstrates human resilience and strength in the face of the harshest challenges. Themes such as perseverance, family love, and the ability to forgive are expressed clearly and deeply. This story teaches many valuable lessons. First, it shows that no one can predict where life will take them, but with love and support from family, one can overcome any difficulty. Emily and Emma had to go through difficult times, but their bond and determination got them through it all. Second, the story emphasizes the importance of never giving up and staying true to your goals. Despite facing many obstacles, Emily continues striving to achieve her dream. Her success is a clear testament to the fact that you can achieve great things if you work hard and never give up. Finally, the possibility of forgiveness and redemption are also essential messages. Despite causing much suffering, Victoria Collins eventually realized her mistake and sought to correct it. Emily's forgiveness helps her relieve her pain and allows Victoria to redeem herself and do better. This story also reflects the heartbreaking reality that many people have to live in harsh circumstances and are mistreated. It reminds us of the importance of compassion and empathy for those less fortunate. In short, Emily and Emma's story is a testament to human strength and the ability to overcome difficulties. It is a reminder that no matter how harsh life gets, there is always hope and opportunity for change.